Hello, my name's Chris Paul, and I am the CEO and founder of Man on Inverclyde, a mental health charity based in Greenock in the west of Scotland. And we're bringing you this message today to raise awareness of mental health and raise awareness of our charity and how we can maybe support you, your friends, or your loved ones if you need it. Now, we started off as a suicide prevention charity and we're continuing that mission. We want to break the stigma attached to mental health. We want to break the stigma attached to men's mental health, and I know that a lot of men will be listening to this podcast. So please get in touch with us via Man on Inverclyde on social media. You'll find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you're not on social media and you want to get in touch with us via email, just type in support@manoninverclyde.com. Our landline here is 01475 910 258. So yeah, get in touch with us if you're struggling with your own mental health or you're concerned about a friend or a family member. One of our staff members, our volunteers, here to support you. Thanks for listening.
Hello and welcome to the Gallant View Rangers podcast. My name's Colin and I'll be your host as always. Joining me tonight to cover it's not quite the Rangers first team back in action, but in this pre-season it's as close as we'll get. Craig Campbell's here to discuss the Masters tournament. Craig, how are you doing?
I'm not bad, Colin. Well, I say that as I'm lying here with a fractured foot for 5 asides last night, but as good as possible. And I just touching on what you said there about the games at the weekend. I think I'm at that point now where I am ready to get back to the football. It didn't really matter what I was watching on Saturday, as long as it had a Rangers jersey involved in it. I was buzzing to be there.
Oh, good to hear, mate. Just before we get into the night itself, the games, a massive thank you to also the organisers, the Masters, 360 Sports and Ready 10 Media for allowing the Gallant View to go along, take some notes to their videos and obviously do this pod off the back. It massively appreciated. But Craig, kick us off with the Saturday night. Obviously, yourself and Chris were there representing the Gallant View, and you both had your boys' ways as well. How was the atmosphere in the build-up?
It was brilliant, Colin. I was kind of saying to you just a wee while ago that I've been to Braehead Arena quite a few times to watch the ice hockey, and it's a cracking arena to go to for any kind of event, but particularly for a kind of sporting event, I think it's got the makings of a proper wee stadium. For anyone that's not been to it, it's basically a kind of circular kind of dome. It's obviously enclosed as well, so you've got the makings of a pretty good atmosphere already. Add into the bargain, you're playing against two of the top teams that come from England, Manchester United and Liverpool, and then one team for Glasgow and another amazing team for Glasgow Rangers. So the build-up, you went in and it was funny, you go into Braehead and it's obviously a lot busier than what it normally would be on a Saturday night. You start seeing a couple of Liverpool tops and you start seeing a couple of Manchester United tops, but then the nerves start hitting as you start walking in and you start seeing Celtic and Rangers tops, because you start realising, we're going to be playing them tonight. And that's the old saying is that it doesn't matter what Rangers and Celtic are playing, whether it's tiddlywinks, it's going to be intense.
That never leaves you, does it? That never leaves you. I even remember in primary school, at lunchtime, it used to be Rangers fans against Celtic fans, and honestly, it was like the build-up. Your life had built up to that moment. It really doesn't matter, does it?
100%. It's funny, like, as we were coming out of the car park and we started seeing some of the fans and stuff, and I started getting the wee knot in my belly like I normally would in the build-up to a big match. It's mad that we're talking about that for like a Legends tournament with players that some of them haven't played for like a decade and stuff, but started getting the tunes on in the car and stuff and getting proper built up for it. It was a buzz.
Brilliant, man. So before the football, the Rangers team itself, I'm not going to lie, when I seen this Rangers team, typical cocky Colin, full of optimism, I thought, we'll have this wrapped up in 2 games. I thought we had a really good squad, and on paper, I was quite looking forward to seeing how they were going to fare.
100%. I mean, going right through the team, Alan Hutton. It wasn't that long ago. Alan Hutton was playing in the Premier League. A proper standout for Aston Villa. You're looking at Barry Ferguson, arguably one of Rangers' greatest ever players. Again, he's been kind of playing in, maybe not playing, but in coaching roles and stuff. And a guy that you would like to think is kind of keeping himself ticking over. You've got Chris Boyd. That Chris Boyd is Chris Boyd. I mean, he was never.
Chris Boyd looks like a pundit now, didn't he?
Oh, mate, do you know? I was kind of building myself up in hope for Chris Boyd, because I know he was doing a lot of things over the last few years, particularly during lockdown, for charities, and he was doing kind of runs and stuff. So I was thinking, the guy's a good looking guy on the telly, and doesn't look as if he's massively overweight. But you put a football tap on him, and there's a couple of tires around that midriff of his. But like you were saying about the team, like the team was littered with quality, and Kenny Miller, again, a player that I don't think he has actually, or he must have retired actually, because if you have to be retired to play in that. But not long ago, I'm talking about a year or 2 ago, he was getting games for Livingston, and he was getting games for Partick Thistle and stuff. Pedro Mendes, a guy that has quality, and you would think he doesn't need to necessarily be that fit to actually do a job. It turned out Pedro Mendes for me was probably the fittest guy in that tournament. And then Roy Carroll, who can't really say much about his Rangers time, but he's a Northern Ireland internationalist, Man United player. It's a decent pedigree going into something like that, do you know? So very similar to yourself, where I'm looking at the other teams and I'm going, we should be comfortably winning this.
Aye, with other teams lined up, and this isn't me looking at it with my Rangers bias. I didn't rate the Celtic team too much. The Man U team looked okay, and Liverpool, the likes of Jamie Carragher, Jermaine Pennant, they had a decent squad, but I definitely thought Rangers were going into this with a good crack at the whip.
Aye, definitely. And I mean, going through the teams, like you said about Celtic, I was a wee bit surprised that, Robson didn't. I mean, a lot of people don't rate Robson when he was at Celtic. I was one of the kind of Rangers supporters. I didn't like playing against him. He always seemed to score goals. He was always in the right positions. I always thought he was quite an underrated player. Simon Donnelly, before my time, there was Stilian Petrov, who is a remarkable athlete, obviously taking on what he went through, obviously, with his illness and stuff, and then came out of that and still played after that. He was another player that I absolutely despised playing against him, because he always seemed to come up with a goal or an assist against Rangers. But looking at the Man United team, and this isn't any disrespect, it's probably my lack of knowledge of the English game, particularly in the kind of 90s and 2000s. But apart from John O'Shea, I didn't really know any of the other players. It was a Liverpool team where I went, right, Robbie Fowler, similar to Chris Boyd, where doesn't need to necessarily be fit. The guy's a finisher. So if he just stands around that kind of goal mouth bit, he's going to get goals. Carragher and Mendes, I mean, I'd said there about Mendes, but Carragher, I need to say about Carragher, what an athlete, what a performance in each game he put in. I mean, you're talking about Legends matches, and they're all kind of ex-pros, and obviously a lot of them are friends through punditry, and there's that mutual respect. There was a tackle in the first game that Carragher played, and you could see for the stand when he made the gritty teeth and went in for the challenge. You went, he's still got that desire. He's still going on that park wanting to win every single tackle, every ball that's there to be won. He's going in for it. So I just to kind of reiterate that, like, out with the kind of Liverpool team, I mean, Pennant looked as if he could still play. The way he was running about the park and stuff like that, and he was a step above with the fitness levels. Robbie Fowler. Robbie Fowler looks as if he's not played that game of football in probably about 20 years, but I'd probably be right with that. But again, I was really, really confident up till the first game.
Well, it sounds like life as a Rangers fan. You always go in confident and just demanding that we win regardless. But let's go into the first game. Liverpool 6, Rangers 2. It ended up so. I know you said beforehand that the Rangers players might not have really got to grips with what Masters football was all about before this game.
Nah, and it was quite telling, the first match, particularly kind of Barry Ferguson, who is my all-time Rangers great. Like I grew up with Ferguson number 6 in the back, and I was devastated when he left, and I was absolutely ecstatic when he came back halfway through that season when we won the league with Alex McLeish. I think we all remember that one when they brought in Bellamy and all that stuff, and they were going to really kick on, and it ended up it was the Rangers team that kicked on and won the league that year. But pretty sure that was the Helicopter Sunday. Just getting that one in there. It's a Rangers podcast, may as well get it in. But just kind of touching on that first game with Barry Ferguson. Obviously, Masters football, it's got certain rules. It's different from your kind of normal 5-a-sides, 11-a-sides, 7-a-sides. It's a different thing altogether. One of the main rules in it is that there must be an opposition player in the other team's half at all times. Doesn't matter if it's the same player or if they alternate, but there must be another player. And I think it's more about trying to kind of allow for a team, or stop a team, from kind of just parking the bus if they go 2-0 up.
I mean, that's fair dues, because all of these Rangers players played under Walter Smith at one point, so they probably would have done that. 100%. Going back to Werder Bremen away, 2008. That's exactly.
Probably half the team was in that on that park that night. But Barry Ferguson didn't really understand that, and you could see it, because there was points where he was at the last point of the Rangers defence, and he was getting the ball, and he was going forward, and instead of just taking the ball forward a couple of yards into the opposition half where the striker couldn't follow, he was wanting to just pass the ball, so you were ending up with one player less in their half, and it meant we were breaking down very, very quickly. If you switch that over to the Liverpool way of playing, Liverpool were coming at us as a full team, and they knew that as soon as they stepped over the halfway line, whoever it may have been, it was Chris Boyd at the start. Chris Boyd certainly wasn't tracking back whether he was allowed or not, I have to say that. But you were nullifying a Rangers player, so you were going up the park. Liverpool were going up the park, and they were an extra man every time. And what they'd done, I don't know if it was a way that Rangers were trying to play at the start and trying to kind of conserve energy, but Liverpool had that game won at half time. They blew us away. They went at us attack after attack, and Rangers couldn't live with it in the first half, unfortunately, and gave us a mountain to climb in the second half.
Oh, well, 6-2. Well, that's some start to your 2022 Masters tournament. Fared a wee bit better in the second game, beating Man U 4-2. So, talk to me about that. Was that just a better quality team? Did they get to grips with the tactics, or a mixture of both?
I mean, you've seen Rangers. We were talking about it off air. Barry Ferguson. For anyone that's listening that didn't see Barry Ferguson playing during his Rangers years, Barry was always known as the moan of the team. He would always be the one that was shouting at players, and was never happy whether we were playing a team and beating them 6-0. Barry Ferguson was still. You would never see him smiling. If you think of Morelos, Barry Ferguson was even worse than that. They went off the park, and you could see there was a few disagreements, and there was a few fingers getting pointed. And I think in that time there was a couple of games that get played, and Rangers players were able to watch and see how other teams were setting up and how they were playing. But certainly the first 5 minutes against Man United, you could see that they'd got to grips with it a wee bit more. Barry Ferguson wasn't staying in the Rangers half; he was actually taking the ball forward and carrying it. Alan Hutton got an injury quite early on as well, which, no disrespect to Alan Hutton, because his last season at Rangers he was phenomenal. To say he was phenomenal would be an understatement. He was Calvin Bassey-esque in in that last year. I remember people saying he went into a kind of supernova, and it was like every time he got the ball, he would just run at defenders and stuff. That wasn't the Alan Hutton that was playing the other night. Alan Hutton kind of camped in the Rangers half, and he was quite happy just to pass the ball. And that will get you so far, but it doesn't get you goals and wins in that kind of tournament. You really need to be full on and proper playing. I think it actually worked in Rangers' benefit, because that meant that other players had to be utilised more, i.e. Michael Moles and Kenny Miller. You've seen Chris Boyd tiring a wee bit, but the way that the game kind of panned out, it looked as if Man United in the first kind of game that they'd played had kind of shot the boat a wee bit, and Rangers were in the ascendancy a bit more. I was actually disappointed we never scored more goals in that game, if I'm being honest, Colin.
Oh, well, good to hear the final got the grips together, and just talk about that wee feud between Barry Ferguson and Kenny Miller, because I know Barry was always a greeting face captain, always wanted the ball. 6-0, as you say, 6-0 was never good enough for him. Kenny Miller had a bit of that in about him as well, but I mean, that's it's kind of heartwarming to see that they still have that in them. This is a friendly tournament. This is a nice wee Friday night Legends game in front of groups of families, and they're still itching to win and be the best. It's admirable. I'll be honest.
100%, and I think as well there was a bit of a surprise, I think, from the Rangers team, because you're looking at, it's in Glasgow, you're playing against Liverpool and Man United, and Celtic are there. You're not expecting many Man United and Liverpool fans to come up the road and on a Saturday night and pay money. Like, the tickets were kind of reasonably priced and stuff, but paying quite a bit of money to travel up and stuff. And lo and behold, when Liverpool scored the first goal, half of Braehead Arena erupted. So it became quite apparent quite quickly that it was kind of 50-50 between Rangers and Celtic in numbers. And of course, with the Glasgow rivalry, when one half doesn't do so well, the other half tends to revel in it. And it certainly kind of showed in the first kind of 10 minutes, because there was a few songs that get played by the DJ, and I would say they're more green of the persuasion in Glasgow. And certainly, I mean, you're looking at the team and you're looking at Chris Boyd, who makes no bones about it that he's a Rangers man. He does it in Sky Sports every other night. Barry Ferguson, who was born into a Rangers family, his big brother played with Rangers from when Barry was a young boy, and then you're looking at the likes of Roy Carroll, who was obviously a blue nose from Northern Ireland. Alan Hutton, who was a Rangers man. Michael Moles, who he's at every Rangers event that you could possibly think of still, and he's not played for Rangers for near enough probably 15 years. And Pedro Mendes, that's been involved with Rangers through kind of working as an agent and stuff. So they're all still linked and tied to the team, or the club, sorry. And I did, it's probably me romanticising it a wee bit, Colin, but I felt like the way that the Celtic fans celebrated their goals in the Liverpool game, I felt it kind of galvanised the Rangers team a bit, and went, let's not get ourselves embarrassed here, particularly when there's Celtic fans loving it. And I think that had a part to play in it as well, for the next games that we played, because we certainly stepped up a level.
So let's go on to the old firm then, since it's the Legends. 2-each at finished. Touching on before the game, the atmosphere at this point. I think a DJ in Glasgow at any event always has to be careful with the music they play. So did the DJ manage to keep it the right side of tongue in cheek?
Yeah, well, up until after the Old Firm game, I would say he did, but he gave us like a song each before the game, and it certainly kind of helped with the kind of the blood pressure getting raised a bit more before the game. I wouldn't say it was as intense as what it is at Ibrox or the other stadium in Glasgow, but it was certainly getting there. And the thing is, as well, you're sitting amongst, it's a mixed company that you're sitting around, and it was all in good jest. There wasn't any bad songs that get sung or anything like that. But it was certainly, when songs were getting sung, they were getting sung with a wee bit extra passion. just because
the fist pumping in the air through gritted teeth, I bet you. That's...
Aye. That's just my wee boy that I'm talking about there. That's, but aye, it was brilliant, and kind of just the first couple of minutes, and it was the exact same as any old firm game where you watch, and the first couple of minutes you can generally tell how a game's going to get panned out in an old firm game, whether there's people, if there's somebody that's going to go in and win a tackle, or they're going to shirk out it, if there's a bit of fast movement getting done, you can generally tell in the first couple of minutes in an old firm game, and you could tell in the first couple of minutes of that game that Rangers were on it, and they really, really wanted it, and we blew Celtic, and I'm no, this isn't an overstatement. Rangers blew Celtic away, particularly in the first half of that. They were playing triangles, they were getting torn into tackles. You'd Lee McCulloch, that was pretty non-existent up until that point with play. Lee was even chipping in with a few runs, and Chris Boyd could have walked away with that, probably with 2 hat-tricks in that game. He managed to score, which he done his usual run, his usual smile. I think that was directed at a few Celtic fans in the corner, but as the game went on, I mean, we went down to 2-1 against them, and there was times when I'm going, how can we be getting beat here? Because when I say that we blew them away, we were playing phenomenally at times. There's a couple of points when, like I said, Chris Boyd was 1-on-1, and you're going, he's like, all he has to do is just hit this. It doesn't matter where he's hitting it. Rab Douglas was true to form throughout that tournament. The only thing he didn't do, which he used to do, was throw the ball in the net. But I think because he's size, I mean, see the thing is as well, you're at that tournament and you're closer to the players than you normally would be in stadiums, and I never ever realised how big Rab Douglas was. He must be 6 foot
he's a giant, isn't he?
Aye,
huge.
Unbelievable. I mean, he had to duck down when he was walking under the goals. He was that big. But to come away from that, I mean, you're no one to. One thing is, see when the minutes start ticking down, you're 2-1 down against Celtic. You do not want to get getting beat. And we knew as well that if we drew, there was still a chance. We knew that before the game, Celtic couldn't win the tournament, but you did not want. It's the usual. You don't want to be getting beat at anything by Celtic. And luckily enough, we managed to get that goal at the end. And I think, with it being a kind of family event and stuff, I kind of walked away from it, obviously disappointed that we never won it, but I'm going, it's probably best for all parties that it ended up a draw. That's me with my balanced.
Aye. In the middle of July is
pre-season. Aye, that's that. You can tell it's pre-season. Give it another month, and I'll certainly not be talking like that.
Aye, everything that goes on in Glasgow in the middle of July, as little old firm animosity as possible is probably best. But
aye,
that's that's good. So Celtic 2, Rangers 2, and then in the last game, Man U screwed Liverpool 4-2, and then that ends up being the final. So going into the final, mate, we didn't have a horse in that race, but Liverpool end up beating Man U 5-3 in the final.
Yeah.
Good game. Was it fair winners for Liverpool?
I mean, I would say from the very start, Liverpool were the standout team, mate. I mean, I have to give credit when credit's due. They were good to watch. It was good to see players like Robbie Fowler, and Robbie Fowler was proper, like giving it his all. And for a player that is clearly not firing all cylinders with his fitness, it was good to see. I mean, they definitely gave their money's worth. For the punters that came and watched. But what I will say is that it was a bit of a surprise. When I say a bit of a surprise, I could not see Man United beating that team in what kind of turned out to be like the kind of semi-final, where it ended up being the final. It was a bit strange, but if you were to kind of watch that tournament over and you kind of go, right, who's the kind of the poorest team to play in this tournament? I would have actually said Man United. There was points when Celtic played pretty well. I wouldn't say that there was points in any games where I would go about Man United and I'll go, they played absolutely fantastic there. They were just pretty kind of consistent, and did they make many mistakes and stuff? And whereas I think, and again, giving Celtic their due, I think they probably went too gung-ho at times and left themselves exposed at the back. And Man United were the kind of boring team of the tournament. Again, that's not to be disrespectful to them or anything, but Rangers hat back on, I think it would have been a better final had it been Liverpool and Rangers.
I totally agree with you there, mate. And I do need to put the disclaimer in, this is a Rangers podcast, so obviously I'm going to say that. But all in all, Craig, again, so that's the first Masters tournament in the UK for 10 years, I'm sure. Worthwhile night, and would you go back in?
Honestly, that's got the potential to be something absolutely spectacular. Like, see if there was even a league that they did and they played maybe every other month or something and just went round the different areas of the UK. I think it could be absolutely massive. I mean, I was looking forward to it as a night out with my son and obviously represent the pod, and it was good to just get out of the house after having COVID for a period there. But from the moment that I stepped out the car in Braehead till I got home, because it was one of the ones where you're driving home and you're talking about all the players and you're talking about the things that happened in the tournament and stuff, driving home. It was a fantastic experience, and what I will say is it was extremely well organised as well.
Brilliant, that's good to hear, and that's all you really want. Again, like we're probably delving into the football a bit more than what people would expect, but we're a football podcast, but that's brilliant, man. It's been a good show, but every team's gave a good account of themselves, and it's been a well organised night for, regardless if you're going there with your pals or you're going there with kids, families, you can go there and just enjoy yourself. So long may it continue, and there's definitely the appetite for it, because it was streamed on television as well, and a lot of people were scrambling to go and watch it. I mean, we're always dying for football in the summer. This one especially, it's an international tournament year, but we don't have an international tournament in the summer, so we're starved. So there's definitely in the grounds a regular event there, I think.
Mate, see, when you think it, I mean, it's a few thousand that arena holds, and for it to sell out, and it could have probably sold out twice with the demand, particularly the kind of week leading up to it. And you think of what's going on in the country with the cost of living, and people find it really, really difficult these days to find money to do anything out with, just paying their bills. It's on the flip side of that as well. I think it's really important that we do have things to look forward to. It can be difficult for people to find things to do as a family, and what I really liked about it as well, and I've seen it quite a bit in that arena, there was mixed. There was people in groups where there was a couple of Celtic tops and there was a couple of Rangers tops in one particular group. So it was like people going as families, and they might not always be Rangers supporters, and they might not all be Celtic supporters, but they can do it as a family, which it gives them somewhere to go and something to do and something to look forward to, particularly in a time when we're all finding it so hard. Which, like you said, long may it continue, and I hope that there is many more to be organised.
Yep, I can't agree more, Craig. Well, I think that'll do us for tonight, mate. Thanks very much again for going there, taking it in for the pod, and then coming on and talking to us about it, mate. It's been a pleasure.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thanks again to the guys for the tickets, and apologies for the issues that I had with my. I'm not the most tech savvy when it comes to things, and I managed to delete the video that I'd done when I was there. So apologies on that. Make sure the next time it doesn't happen.
Long-term listeners of the Gallant Few know that all in all we're a shower of idiots at times, so no surprise if we had one plan and it was to do a video from the stadium, and that one basic task went awry. But for the listeners who follow us regularly, Chris Paul, regular podder, him and his son will have a video up on their YouTube as well, just covering their thoughts of the game. A nice wee father-son video talking about how they took in the night. But just to echo Craig, thanks to the organisers for supporting us with this pod, and thanks everybody for listening. All the best and take care, and just remember, we are the people.